After the short holiday ended, my husband suddenly said he had to go directly abroad on a business trip. I had no choice but to take our daughter back home, but on the highway, I spotted my husband's license plate. "Mom, didn't Dad say he wasn't coming back with us? Why is he ahead of us? I saw your favorite cosmetics in Dad's car, and snacks that the baby likes." I smiled faintly. Could this be a surprise from my husband? Just as I was about to honk to signal him, unexpectedly, he separated from me at the highway exit. My daughter was puzzled. "Mom, I saw Aunt Lily sitting in the passenger seat. Is Dad going back with Aunt Lily?" My gaze fell on the familiar silhouette, and my heart ached. I dialed the number hidden deep in my heart. "Grab the tools, come with me to catch them in the act." "Mom, aren't we going home?" "Where are we going?" I forced a smile. "We're going to give Dad a surprise, okay?" My daughter cheered excitedly, while I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles turning white. Familiar with every road back home, I easily followed my husband's car all the way to a luxury hotel. Outside the hotel were wedding photos of my husband and Lily. The two appeared intimate, a match made in heaven. Why didn't Dad take Daisy when he took photos with Aunt Lily? My daughter felt very aggrieved and dialed the phone on her watch. My husband's tone was extremely impatient. "I'm in a meeting in the US, it's midnight here, I need to sleep, don't make trouble." The call was hung up decisively, and my daughter looked shocked at the familiar man outside the window. My husband, supposedly in the US, was at that moment gently adjusting Lily's windblown collar. My heart was brutally stabbed. Over the past few years, he had repeatedly stayed out all night under the pretext of business trips. When I questioned him, he always impatiently said he was working hard for our family. It turned out that his so-called career struggles involved romantic outings with another woman. It turned out that my understanding had become the perfect excuse for his betrayal. My daughter was at a loss. "Mom, what should we do now?" I took a deep breath and had a delivery guy bring 2 buckets of red paint, which I splashed into the scumbag's car. Then, I took out a self-defense axe from the trunk, holding my daughter's cold little hand. "Let's go. We're going to give Dad a surprise." As soon as I entered the hotel lobby, I heard my mother-in-law's shrill voice. "I've long disliked Sophie. How can she compare to Lily's virtuous and caring nature? She's just a hen that doesn't lay eggs. She finally gave birth to one, but it's a sickly money loser. Unlike my new daughter-in-law Lily, so blessed, pregnant with my chubby grandson, now our old goo family finally has an heir." Every word pierced my heart. Insulting me was fine, but not my daughter. I walked step by step toward her, my voice ice cold. "Mom, who are you calling a money loser?" My mother-in-law's smile froze, looking extremely embarrassed. When Daniel saw me, his face changed drastically. He rushed over and pulled me aside. "Sophie, what are you doing here?" I laughed in anger. "Daniel, aren't you going to give me an explanation today? My husband is getting married, and I, the legitimate wife, didn't even know?" "Explain what?" "It's just as you see." His tone was perfunctory. I had no choice. It's an act for Lily. My mother-in-law came over to echo. "The child in Lily's belly is already 5 months. Her family insists on marriage, or they'll abort the child. We're just trying to save my grandson." She hypocritically held my hand. "Don't worry, you'll always be Daniel's main wife. We're just doing this for the child, don't overthink it. They even have an illegitimate child. And tell me not to overthink?" My eyes reddened as I pointed to the groom label on Daniel's chest. "An act? Does an act need to be this elaborate?" My mother-in-law's old face blushed, but she stubbornly explained, "An act has to be complete." At that moment, Lily, with her pregnant belly, walked to Daniel's side, proudly asserting her claim to me. "Daniel, many relatives are waiting for you to toast, let's go back quickly." Her eyes glared at me provocatively, satisfied watching my embarrassment. When Daniel saw I still wanted to argue, his face was full of reproach. "Sophie, that's enough. Whatever it is, wait until I get home, don't embarrass yourself here." He subconsciously protected Lily behind him, worried I might harm her. Looking at Lily's prominently swollen belly and Daniel protecting another woman in front of me, my heart suddenly ached sharply. To have a child with him, I had endured countless injections to preserve the pregnancy and suffered so much hardship before finally giving birth to our daughter Daisy. For our family, I quit my promising job and treated my patriarchal mother-in-law like my own mother. Yet, not only did they not appreciate me at all, but they conspired together and stabbed me in the back. Rage burned in my heart. I sneered, "Fine, since you love acting so much, I'll help make this play even more lively." I raised my volume and spoke loudly, "Everyone, I am the groom Daniel's legally married wife, Sophie. Today I just learned that my husband and mother-in-law are staging a fake wedding for the illegitimate child in Lily's belly. But Lily, knowing the groom is married, still wants to be a disgraceful mistress. Now I can't tell who's telling the truth and who's lying. Could everyone please judge for me, the legitimate wife?" As soon as the words fell, the whole room was in an uproar. Lily's face turned pale, crying pitifully. "You're talking nonsense. You're the mistress." She turned the tables. "To climb up to our family's Daniel, you deliberately brought a bastard to claim kinship, intentionally splashing dirty water on us. I've never seen such a vicious woman." Lily's parents also rushed over, pointing at my nose and cursing loudly. "Shameless vixen. Want to destroy my daughter's happiness? No way." The onlookers were instantly incited and began pointing at me. "So it's the mistress bringing a bastard to cause trouble, really disgusting. Look at her dressed all fancy, didn't expect her to be so shameless. Women these days will do anything for money, so cheap. Bringing a child to cause trouble, the child is pitiful having such a mom." In the chaos, someone pushed me hard from behind. I stumbled and fell embarrassingly to the ground. My knee hit the floor, causing piercing pain. I subconsciously looked up at Daniel. After 8 years of sharing a bed, Daniel watched me being accused by the crowd, his face showing conflicted reluctance. But he just sighed and ultimately chose silence. My mother-in-law rushed over, grabbed me from the ground, and pushed me out. "You shameless bitch, daring to destroy my son's happiness? Hurry up and take this bastard and get out, don't embarrass yourself here." Daniel kept his head down, not daring to look into my eyes. Over these years, I'd been so good to him that none of his friends and brothers didn't envy him. I didn't believe his heart could be this hard. But I overestimated our relationship. Daniel hesitated for a moment, then frowned impatiently. "Hurry up and leave. Hurry up and leave. Don't embarrass yourself here." His muddling words left me completely passive. Seeing I wasn't leaving, my mother-in-law became even more arrogant. "You say you're my daughter-in-law? Fine. Show the evidence. Prove you're Daniel's wife." My daughter timidly looked at her grandmother, walked over, and held her hand. "Grandma." My mother-in-law flung her hand away sharply, screaming, "Who is your grandma? Don't randomly claim relatives. You unknown bastard." My daughter was frightened by her ferocious face, turning pale and bursting into tears. I heart-achingly hugged her into my arms, glaring at my mother-in-law. But my mother-in-law became even more aggressive. "If you're capable, show the marriage certificate to everyone. Can't show it means you're guilty. Even if the King of Heaven comes today, you're still a liar." "Marriage certificate? I was just going back to my parents' home for Mid-Autumn Festival. How could I carry the marriage certificate with me?" Moreover, after getting the certificate, Daniel had put both away. He held me affectionately. "I'm going to lock the marriage certificates in the safe, so you can never find them and never divorce me." At that time, immersed in the sweetness of love, I didn't find anything wrong. Only now did I realize how foolish I was. This wasn't his love for me at all, it was a trap he set for today. Just as I was speechless, Lily slowly took out a red booklet from her bag. Shyly nestling in Daniel's arms, "I'm so sorry, making everyone watch this joke. Daniel and I got the certificate first and then got pregnant. We originally didn't plan to show off our love, but unexpectedly." As she spoke, she gave me a aggrieved glance. I couldn't believe it. I rushed over and snatched the marriage certificate. On the cover, the photo of Daniel and Lily stung my eyes. The uneven feel of the steel stamp told me it was real. My mind went blank. Holding the certificate, I rushed to Daniel, my voice trembling. "Didn't you say it was an act?" "Daniel. Tell me, does an act require getting a real marriage certificate? We haven't divorced yet. This is bigamy. This is illegal." I stared at him intently. Daniel was extremely guilty, avoiding my gaze, silent. My gaze turned to Lily again. During school, Lily had bullied me on campus. She cornered me in the bathroom and slapped me, tore my homework book, and splashed ink on my white skirt. Those days were the shadow of my life. Until I met Daniel, because of his love, I slowly emerged from the gloom. Later we got married, and Lily solemnly apologized to me at the wedding. Daniel advised me to forgive where possible. So I forgave her. But he clearly knew how much I had suffered, yet he still got together with the bully and even had a child. My heart was dead ashes. Lily's parents rushed up again, pointing at my daughter and cursing. "That little bastard doesn't look like anything good, just as cheap as her mom. So young and not learning well, following her mom out to scam money. Looking all sickly, so unlucky." Although my daughter was in poor health, her personality never allowed others to bully her. She retorted crisply, "I'm not a bastard. You're the bad people. You're the mistresses. I'm going to call the police and have you all arrested." Lily's parents didn't expect to lose face to a child. Immediately furious, they raised their hands to hit her. "You're rebelling. Little bitch. See if I don't tear your mouth today." "Daisy!" I screamed, wanting to rush over to protect my daughter. At that moment, my daughter suddenly clutched her chest, her little face turning red, emitting painful gasps. Her asthma was triggered. I panicked, screaming her name heartbreakingly. But my mother-in-law gloated shrilly. "I said she's a sickly one. Always on the verge of death. Pretending to die for whom? Unlucky thing. I regretted it. I shouldn't have brought my daughter here. She's still so young, she doesn't understand anything and shouldn't follow me to such a dirty place to see these ugly faces. Medicine, medicine." I trembled all over, frantically searching in my bag for the asthma inhaler. But the spare was in the car. I looked at Daniel, begging him humbly for the first time. "Daniel. The medicine is in the car, please send someone to get it quickly. Daisy can't hold on." Daniel panicked at the sight of his daughter's distress. He nodded urgently and turned to go over himself. But Lily grabbed his arm, weakly leaning on him, tearfully. "Daniel, don't go, my belly hurts so much, I'm scared if you leave." Hearing there was a problem with her grandson, my mother-in-law immediately blocked Daniel. "Go where? Isn't it just a girl dying? Always sick and disastrous, if she dies, she dies. Dying is a blessing. Saves dragging us down later." She looked at Lily's belly, full of expectation. "The one in Lily's belly is your son, 100 times better than this sickly one." Daniel indeed hesitated, looking at me guiltily. "Why don't you figure it out yourself? My wife is unstable now." I couldn't believe my ears. Before, when our daughter had a fever, Daniel would stay up all night caring for her. When sending her to kindergarten, Daniel would cry uncontrollably. To coax our daughter to eat, Daniel would act like a clown, bark like a dog, without limits. He once said she was the apple of his eye, but now, watching her near death, he said such cold words. I roared at him anxiously, "Daniel. She's your biological daughter. She's about to die." Before Daniel could speak, my mother-in-law's slap hit my face hard. "You still have the face to shout. Hurry and admit in front of everyone you're a mistress trying to climb high. Otherwise, no one will save this little bastard." I covered my burning face, stubbornly glaring at her, silent. My mother-in-law slapped me again from both sides. "Bitch. Still not admitting. See how hard your mouth is." She pointed at my daughter whose breathing was getting weaker, issuing the final ultimatum. "I tell you, if you don't publicly admit you're the mistress today, I'll let you watch your daughter breathe her last. Lily suppressed her smug smile, sarcastically fanning the flames. Oh, really shameless, daughter almost dead, still lying for face, don't know how to be a mom. Looking at my daughter's face starting to turn blue, I began to waver for the first time. But she tightly held my hand, shaking her head with difficulty. No, Mom, I'm not a bastard. I instantly woke up. I couldn't admit it. Once I did, not only would I be ruined, but it would implicate Daisy. I couldn't let her bear the stigma of illegitimate child and bastard for life. Seeing me still hesitating, my mother-in-law kicked my abdomen hard. Shameless thing. See how long you can hold on. The intense pain made me curl up, but I still held my daughter tightly. I knelt down and cowed out heavily to Daniel. Daniel, I beg you, for the sake of Daisy calling you dad for 6 years, please send someone to get the medicine. My forehead hit the cold floor, blood flowing from my temple. Daniel looked at my unprecedented humility, then at our dying daughter, finally unable to bear it. He opened his mouth to send someone for the medicine, but Lily pulled him again. She walked in front of me, looking down. I'm about to be a mom, I can't stand this. I can save your daughter. But you ruined my wedding today, you must kowtow and apologize to me, and promise never to disturb our lives again. My daughter's face had turned a terrifying blue-purple, her consciousness fading. I completely despaired and broke down. All dignity and pride became worthless in front of my daughter's life. Suppressing my rage and humiliation, I slowly stood up. Turning toward Lily, I bent my knees. At the critical moment, the banquet hall door was kicked open from outside. A group of bodyguards surged in, roughly pushing aside the crowd, forcibly clearing a path. The leading man extended his foot to block my knee, preventing me from kneeling. Didn't you tell me to grab tools and catch them? I brought people to smash the place, but why are you kneeling first? I looked up into deep, sea-like eyes. It was my childhood friend Alex. Alex glanced at my nearly suffocating daughter in my arms, his gaze sharp as a knife. The private medical team following him immediately stepped forward, professionally and quickly taking Daisy from my arms for on-site emergency treatment. Then they lifted her onto a stretcher and rushed her to the hospital. Seeing my daughter properly cared for, my extremely tense nerves finally snapped, and I collapsed. Alex extended his long arm, steadily pulling me into his embrace. He took off his obviously expensive custom suit and gently wrapped it around my disheveled self. His gaze fell on my swollen, bleeding cheek, and rage surged in his eyes. Bang! He lifted his foot and kicked the main table nearby hard. The table laden with expensive dishes and a champagne tower collapsed instantly into a mess. The sound of crystal glasses shattering, guest screams, chaos ensued. Daniel was stunned by this sudden change. Mustering courage, he roared at Alex, "Who the fuck are you? Daring to cause trouble here?" Alex didn't even glance at him properly. He single-handedly choked Daniel's throat, effortlessly lifting him off the ground and pinning him against the wall. Daniel's over 1.8 meters height was powerless against Alex. Alex's thin lips sneered Daniel's ear, "I'm her man." "What are you?" I coldly watched this scene, glanced at the glaring red fake certificate in Lily's hand, and spoke. "Daniel, forging official documents is a serious crime. Wait to go to jail." Seeing her son subdued, my mother-in-law like a madwoman wanted to rush up and make a scene. "You vixen! Let go of my son." Before she could approach, 2 tall black-clad bodyguards flanked her. Expressionlessly, they took a napkin from the table and stuffed it into her chattering mouth. The world finally quieted. Alex's assistant walked to the terrified Lily, handing her a tablet. "Miss Lily, congratulations. Just 10 minutes ago, your father's Linwood industry, suspected of serious tax evasion and illegal operations, has been sealed by authorities and formally filed for bankruptcy." "What?" Lily and her previously arrogant parents simultaneously screamed in disbelief, their legs weakening as they collapsed to the ground. The entire banquet hall fell into dead silence. Everyone was shocked by this thunderous method, not daring to breathe. I slowly walked step by step to Lily, picked up the huge and gorgeous engagement cake on the table. In Lily's terrified gaze, I smashed it entirely onto her head. Cream, fruits, chocolate sauce covered her head and face, utterly disheveled. I looked at her, voice calm. "This is what you owe my daughter." In the hospital's top VIP ward, my parents hurried in. After learning the whole truth, my dad trembled with anger and wanted to rush out to fight Daniel, but I held him back tightly. "Dad, don't dirty your hands for that scum." My mother held me, sobbing uncontrollably, regretting nonstop. "It's all my fault, I advised you to endure, to be virtuous. My daughter suffered such great grievances." Our family of three hugged tightly as never before. Alex had already arranged everything, from top medical experts to the best lawyer team in the country. Then he quietly left, leaving space for us. This man was always like this, silently paving all paths for me, never taking credit. After settling my parents and daughter, I drove back to my and Daniel's marital home. I wanted to take my documents and some personal items. But when I pressed my finger on the fingerprint lock, it emitted a cold electronic sound. Authentication failed. He had deleted my access so quickly. I sneered inwardly, went around to the villa's back door, and saw a scene that made my eyes split with rage. My clothes, books, photos, even Daisy's toys from childhood, all piled like garbage on the lawn at the villa entrance, soaked by evening dew. My mother-in-law was with a few neighbors, pointing at my things and cursing filthily. "Look, this is that non-laying hen stuff, still wanting to occupy our house, dream on. My son wanted to divorce her long ago, it's her clinging shamelessly." They even took out phones, recording videos while commenting. They posted the videos to the neighborhood owners group and local forums. "Vicious mistress brings bastard to force the palace, driven out by the legitimate mother-in-law, so satisfying." They could turn black into white. I didn't rush up to fight as they expected, nor cry. I just stood there quietly, watching them perform like clowns. Then, I took out my phone and messaged Alex, "Help me arrange a meeting with the most famous divorce lawyer in the country, and reporters from the biggest media." Less than a minute after sending, Alex called. "I've already found all of Daniel's financial loopholes and dirt." Half an hour later, Alex's assistant delivered a thick craft envelope. Inside were records of Daniel taking kickbacks from company projects, evidence of embezzling public funds. Even ambiguous chat records with others and hotel room bookings. Each one sufficient to ruin him completely. It turned out his surprises were far more than just Lily. Holding the envelope, I turned back to the villa entrance. My mother-in-law saw me and wanted to make a scene again. I just looked at her calmly, speaking word by word. "Margaret, you'd better pray your son can support you for the rest of his life." Shortly after I left, Alex investigated thoroughly. The marriage certificate Daniel had with Lily was made in an underground workshop in the urban village. Highly realistic, ordinary people couldn't tell. He probably wanted to use this fake to stabilize Lily and her family first. Wait for the child to be born, then find a chance to really divorce me. What a good plan. I sneered. Daniel's first startup capital when he started was from mortgaging the dowry property my parents gave me at the bank. But outwardly, he always claimed to be self-made, relying on his talent and effort for today's success. I sneered and called a friendly financial reporter. Gave her exclusive scoop on how a Phoenix man rose relying on his wife's family. At the same time, using a new account, I contacted the person who made the fake certificate for Daniel. Didn't report to police, but directly transferred money to buy the full call recordings and chat logs of his transaction with Daniel. After doing all this, I contacted the most authoritative paternity testing center in the country. Sent a special sample urgently. Before the storm, it's always unusually calm. Online remarks about me being a vicious mistress were overwhelming. Under videos and posts, filled with ignorant onlookers and Daniel's hired trolls. "That woman named Sophie is so disgusting, can't have children herself, wants to rob others, crazy for money? Support Daniel and Lily, must sue Sophie. Make her go to jail." Such women should be drowned in pig cages. So shameless. Heard her daughter is sick. Really karma. Facing the unbearable online comments, I only logged into my social account and posted, "Tomorrow morning at 10, Century Hotel International Conference Center. Welcome media friends to witness the truth." This post instantly exploded online, everyone's curiosity piqued. Daniel and my mother-in-law probably thought I was at my wit's end, desperate. Smugly, they publicly replied online, "Sophie, instead of doing these useless things, hurry to the Civil Affairs Bureau to handle divorce. Otherwise, I'll fight for custody, so you never see that sickly one again." They thought my daughter was my only weakness. But they were wrong. My daughter is my armor. I'll spare no cost to get justice for her. The next day's press conference was packed. Hundreds of media with cameras almost filled the venue. Daniel and Lily sat on the stage, playing perfect victims deeply hurt by me, the vicious ex-wife. Daniel in a proper branded suit, looking haggard, eyes sad. Lily in a loose maternity dress, no makeup, crying pitifully. "Lily and I truly love each other, Sophie won't let us go. She even uses my daughter's illness to threaten me, forcing me for a huge breakup fee." Daniel tearfully accused me of crimes. Lily timely added, announcing to protect their hard-won love fruit, they'd sue me for slander and extortion. Just as Lily stroked her belly, full of happiness, the huge LED screen at the back suddenly lit up. It played high-definition footage from that day's hotel wedding banquet, how mother-in-law Margaret viciously insulted my daughter as a money loser, how Daniel ignored her during her asthma attack, and how they all forced me to kneel and admit being the mistress. The video was shot from different angles, even their expressions clear. Oh my God! This reversal is too fast. So that little girl is really his daughter. Even tigers don't eat their cubs. That old woman is too vicious, not human. The room erupted instantly, reporters' flashes went crazy on the pale-faced pair on stage. At that moment, I slowly entered from the side door. All spotlights focused on me instantly. Wearing the Chanel suit Alex prepared, with exquisite makeup, in 10-centimeter heels, aura fully on. "Sophie! You bitch!" Daniel and mother-in-law saw me and shrieked sharply. Ignoring their hysteria, I walked straight to the stage, took the microphone from the host. I scanned the room, gaze finally on Daniel and Lily. "Didn't everyone say I can't bear a son, a non-laying hen?" I smiled slightly, snapped my fingers. The screen behind switched instantly to our premarital medical report. The report clearly marked in red, "Male suffers from severe asthenospermia, severely insufficient sperm motility, natural conception probability almost zero." The room fell silent again. All eyes scanned between Daniel and Lily. Daniel's face turned from pale to ashen. Looking at Lily's instantly paper-white face, I smiled and delivered the fatal blow. "So, Miss Lily, I'd like to know. Whose is the medical miracle in your belly?" "Ah. Nonsense. You bitch," forged the report. Mother-in-law Margaret collapsed first, rushing on stage like a madwoman, pouncing on Lily, scratching and hitting. "You shameless vixen. Liar. Whose bastard is in your belly? Speak." Daniel, as if struck by lightning, stiffened, staring at Lily's belly, eyes from shock to doubt, finally to raging fury. Lily's hair pulled by mother-in-law, face scratched with blood marks, in huge panic and fear, she blurted, "Daniel, you're a waste. Useless. Can't even protect your own wife and child." This sentence was the last straw, also confirming his impotence. I watched this farce coldly, releasing the final big move. "Don't rush, I have another piece of evidence." On the big screen, a DNA paternity report appeared. The conclusion was infinitely enlarged, clearly displayed to all. Based on DNA genetic marker analysis, exclude Daniel as the biological father of the fetus in Lily's abdomen. Via database comparison, the fetus's DNA matches Daniel's direct superior, UNDA Group Vice President Mr. Victor, with 99.99% kinship probability. Alex's people had investigated clearly long ago. Lily used the child to string Daniel along, wanting to use him as a patsy to marry into the Gu family smoothly. On the other side, she was the mistress of that over 50, already married Group VP, delusionally thinking after the child is born, use it as leverage to force her way up, become a real wealthy wife. Pity she schemed both ends, ending up with nothing. The press conference turned into a century farce. Daniel, learning he was cuckolded and almost became a joy dad, lost reason completely, rushing up with mother-in-law to punch and kick Lily. The three fought together, ugly postures everywhere, all decency and disguises torn to shreds. The subsequent developments were predictable. Daniel was formally sued by me for forging documents, bigamy, embezzlement, and commercial fraud, among others. Ultimately imprisoned, ruined, penniless. All his marital assets, including my premarital property and joint property, were awarded to me by the court. Lily's fate was worse. That VP's original wife was famously fierce, directly bringing people to the hospital, forcing her to abort the child. Then severely taught her a lesson, making her unable to stay in the city, finally slinking away to distant places. As for my vicious mother-in-law, son imprisoned, house seized, overnight from pampered rich lady to homeless old woman, desolate old age. Using the compensation money plus proceeds from selling the company, in daughter Daisy's name, I established a charity foundation specifically to help children with asthma. I took Daisy and my parents, moving into a seaside villa facing the ocean that Alex had prepared for us long ago. In a better environment and under careful treatment by a top medical team, Daisy's asthma gradually improved, smiles on her face increasing. Everything was developing toward the best. One evening, Alex held my hand walking along the beach. At a deserted reef, he suddenly stopped, took out a velvet box from his pocket, and knelt on one knee before me. Sophie, before, I came late, letting you suffer so many grievances. For the rest of life, let me protect you and Daisy, okay? Not far away, Daisy saw this, clapping her little hands, cheering loudly. Mom, agree quickly. I want Uncle Alex as dad. I want Uncle Alex as dad. I looked at the stars in his eyes, at my daughter's brilliant smile, smiling as I slowly extended my hand. A new life was just beginning.